Meeting.
One is developer. And I'm going to talk about 3 roles and responsibilities in my training. Okay. So before going to that particular area, I'm just showing you what are the components available in MicroStrategy. Okay. Components. And how each and every component, who will be working on each and every component, I'll be talking here. The first one is desktop, and these days you call it as developer from 9.4 version. Okay, these two are same, they just changed the name, that's it. Okay, the desktop or developer, both are same. Okay, it depends on which version you are working on. This particular thing is like, where you will be installed in your machine, you will work from scratch. You start your project source, create project, connect it to database, pull the tables into MicroStrategy, then you start design the project as an architect, build the models, everything. Then you create the actual reports, dashboards, cubes, and other metrics as a developer. Then you publish it in the web, and also you finally give it to your end user, who is the person who will be viewing these reports. Okay, so all these activities, the actual development will be done in the desktop, and then it will be moved to web. And in MicroStrategy, there is a functionality. You can also create reports in the web directly with a limited functionalities. But objects like attributes, all these things, they have to create in the desktop, not in the web. You create all the stuff, then put it in the report. You can do it in the desktop or in the web. Okay, when I want to divide this task, 80% of the work in general I do it in the desktop, and the remaining 20% I do it in the web. What is the 20% means? Let's say, for example, I create reports, I create dashboards. I do it in desktop, then I run it in the web, then I see the formatting looks like everything is perfect or not. The formatting, it may be easy to do it in the web rather than doing in the desktop, because you will see there itself how it looks like, and then you modify it, then you run it, it's a continuous process what you do there. Any questions here first? Hello? Someone respond, please.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So you have the different components called intelligent server. This is called as heart of MicroStrategy with respect to 3-tier environment. Okay, I'll be talking about architecture. So with respect to 3-tier environment, without intelligent server, you cannot work in MicroStrategy, because 2-tier is something you use for your practice or something. In projects, you have to connect it to a server where you have to do your actual development. Okay, and apart from this, you have a lot of other components available like command manager, object manager, enterprise manager, integrity manager. What are all these things? Command manager, as it says like command, you can write the scripts here. Okay, but as I told you earlier, probably for Sundar I told, this is MicroStrategy is a BI tool, and it's a kind of a front-end tool. You don't need to write a lot of scripting here. It's like more you use a mouse rather than using all this keypad and other stuff. Okay, so what you do is in command manager, whatever the reports, metrics, everything can be done in command manager by writing script, but you don't do it. So things to do it. Let's say, for example, I have to create a user called Pawan. I go to desktop, I right click, and I create a user, and I give him name, I give him privileges, I give him password. The user is created. Imagine I have to create 100 users at a time. I cannot right click 100 times in the desktop, right? So what I do is I write a script in an Excel, and I copy that. Okay, I copy that and paste it in command manager and execute it. What I can do here, bulk user creation. At the same time, my user, I have a meeting, my business team has got me at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I need to make sure my reports are executed and be ready by 8:50 in the morning. So what I can do, I can run the 50 or 60, whatever the number of reports from Azure. Report. And apart from these things, we have few things like, purging the cache. How many of you know cache? And like user creations or start and stop the intelligent server. Okay, all this user management stuff, everything can be done from the command manager. And you if it is a single task, you do it stop. If it is a bulk or a huge task, you do it in the command manager. Okay, and coming to this, just now someone has asked me like, how you move the objects, right? So using the object manager, so in real time you got like, one is development, one is QA, and the other one is production. Different servers will be there. Some people might have SIT or, it depends on the projects. So you're gonna move this. Let's say, for example, you created a new project, brand new project in development. Then you have to move that to QA. Team will test the application, and some people may do the UAT also there itself. Once everything is signed off, then you move to production. So moving objects from one server to another server is possible only with object manager. So migration from one server to another server. Let me tell you, unlike other BI components, MicroStrategy is totally different. Like BOS, Cognos, they do a lot of components. Each and everything is again licensed stuff. It's not like that with MicroStrategy. You get software, you get with complete package. You understand, each and every component is used only for that particular part. Let's say object manager is only used for migration. Apart from migration, you cannot use, you don't use it for anything. Okay. And similarly, these are very rarely used components, these two things. So one thing is you use it for audit purpose or logs. What does it mean? Let's say, for example, I want to know how many valid users are in my project. Because people move, the users may move out of the project, come in, because after they move out, still their IDs will be activated. Still they are in active state because we are paying the licenses for each and every user. Okay, we need to make sure the users are gone, the ID should be disabled or deactivated. At the same time, not only these things, how many times Pawan has logged into a development server in last 6 months? How many reports were deleted by, like, Raman? How many reports were created by Guru Prasad? So these kind of things, like, how many times a particular dashboard is hit by these many people, like, all these kind of report executions and all these information statistics can be getted from the enterprise manager. Okay, and this is the other one, and I know that, like, people don't even use this at all, just because every development team will have a testing team with them. This integrity manager is used only for testing. And people don't give it for the QA team, these components. This is only for administrator will be using this particular component. When do they use it? So they use it to compare to projects, compare to reports. How many people know Toad or Edit Plus? Hello?
Yeah, I know. Edit Plus.
Yeah, so you know how to compare two sequels in the Toad, right? You have an option there. You need to copy two text documents and you can compare side by side. You will see the difference. Am I right? Similarly, someone respond. Hello.
Yeah, you can do that in multiple ways. Even other tools you can compare to text.
I'm just giving you two examples. So similarly you can do the testing, whatever that happens with the Toad and Edit Plus, comparing sequels. Similarly, Integrity Manager is also used to compare two reports, two projects. Then the result will show you what are the unique stuff you have it in when you compare with A and B projects or A and B reports. That's what my intention of comparing with that one. Okay.
Can we compare between production and QA?
Sorry?
Can we compare between a project in the production which is in a different server and my project which is in the QA which is in a different server? Can the integrity manager compare across the boxes?
You can do it.
You cannot do it?
You can do it.
You can or you cannot?
You can do it.
Okay.
Okay. You have mobile. You have SDK. You have narrowcast server. Okay. So this mobile earlier it was only with the iPhone and BlackBerry and iPad and all these things, but it has got with the Androids as well now. So you can install more MicroStrategy app, and you can also connect to with that particular one as well. The SDK, it's only used for customization of reports. So when I say that customization of a report, you have a unique requirement, something you need to bring the functionality. So using Java, using .NET or any other programming languages, by calling the APIs, okay, by calling the Java or .NET APIs, you can use that, bring that functionality into MicroStrategy environment, okay. And finally, we have this narrowcast server. So this was used very, very frequently until 8 version. So once the 9 version got introduced, we have an option, we have a functionality called distribution services. Distribution services in MicroStrategy desktop itself. So what is exactly the definition of these things? So the narrowcast server is used to schedule the jobs and subscribe them to users. Let's say, for example, at 9 o'clock I have to send my report every day, like to my manager. It should be automated. I need to send it a PDF or an Excel or a Flash file to him. So I can schedule the report, need to run it and send it to him by default. So this is what the component we used to use it earlier, the narrowcast server. People are using it, whoever is using the previous options are still using it. Currently we have the same functionality directly in the desktop itself. That is nothing but developer now. You right click on a report and you schedule it, okay? And if you give the email ID there, it will go to that particular person. So, or you can cache it, or you can do a lot of things are available. So you can schedule there itself in the desktop. Any questions still here? These are the components of MicroStrategy.
Okay, there is one question. So you said like command manager already does this bulk report execution, right? It won't send those reports to the end users, it just executes?
So command manager, very rarely we deal with such kind of requirements. Whatever I'm talking about is scheduler, these things. You can schedule a job from your Unix or DOS or from anywhere. But the user-friendly or developer-friendly, you just right-click on a mouse and you do it. That's the easiest way to do instead of writing a lengthy scripts, right? So you do in that way, in that fashion. So which is very easy to, you just schedule a job, it automatically runs it. You don't need to manually come and execute a script here. You do it for one time, it works forever,
Okay.
I think someone is asking another question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, the scripting is done in .NET, right?
Come again?
Scripting is done for bulk creation, as you said. We do it for .NET, or Java can also be.
You don't use Java or .NET in the command manager. MicroStrategy has got its own scripting language. Okay, and let me tell you, you don't need to worry about it. It's very simple. And it's hardly a single line commands you use it, even for creating bulk users. Okay, so I'll show you that. I mean, you don't need to worry about it. There is no much scripting in MicroStrategy, and in fact, you don't need to do any scripting as well. Okay, it depends again. Like you don't. If you're going as purely as an administrator, you need to do some kind of stuff there. If you're going as an architect developer, you don't need to you will not be like they will not allow you to touch these components at all. You always work on desktop and web. If you are an architect and developer, if you are an administrator only, you're gonna get a chance to look at these components. If not, you don't even have a privilege to touch that. Okay, I'm just copying this thing and putting in the chat box. Okay, for your reference.
Hi, I have a question related to this product actually.
Go ahead.
Once we install, see right now we have a license for 30 days and we're installing it, that's fine. But for the production, like a big corporation enterprise thing, we have to plan right accordingly how many reports and what kind of how many data sources that we are going to use. And it's different teams might be working different projects. So for that, it's to maintenance and all that we have to have all the products components. Sorry. So in this case, do you have to have a different licenses for different products as a components?
I think just a few minutes back I told you, MicroStrategy,
right.
You don't need to buy licenses for each and every component. You get all the components at a time. This licenses is based on users and the privilege is what you have. So it will be on a for administrator, architect, developer, it's based on the roles of what you have. The license is based on that particular thing. By default, you get 1 admin, 2 architect, and 3 developer with some power users. You understand?
Nice.
Whatever the license is based on those things.
I got it. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm talking about the architecture here. The MicroStrategy, it has got different types of architectures. And the people keep on adding a lot of components to this as well. So when I say 2-tier, you have a database available, and database is directly connected to your MicroStrategy desktop, or let me rename it as developer. Okay. So what does it happen here? So you just when you're creating a project source, you have seen there direct. Do you see that? The direct option, right? When you say direct, it means when you run a report in MicroStrategy desktop, it directly goes to the dev database and pull the data, show it in your report. Okay? And that particular environment is set for only you. No one else can look at your reports, what you have created, because you are in a 2-tier environment. What is a 3-tier then? Database is connected to intelligent server. As I mentioned earlier, this is the heart of MicroStrategy. And you then connect it to desktop or developer. Okay. Now, listen carefully, and this is very important. If you don't understand, I'll repeat it. Okay. So I just ran a report in MicroStrategy desktop. Okay. So when I run a report, it goes to intelligent server. Okay. In the intelligent server, there are different sub-components available, and these are, first one is SQL engine, query engine, analytical engine. These are sub-components available. So what exactly it do? So let's say, for example, in a report you placed month dimension, month attribute, and the region attribute, and the cost metrics. When you run a report, it automatically go to the intelligent server. Using those 3 columns, whatever the tables it is, it generates SQL. And those SQLs may be in single parse, in a multiple parses. Depends on the columns and the tables it is hitting. All these SQLs, all these parses will send to query engine. This query engine will get all these, whatever the queries it has got to database. It executes the queries there and get the output from that database, put it in the query engine, and it sends to the desktop report. This is what behind the scene, when you execute a report, this is what execution flow it happens. Okay. So this is a normal stuff. Let's say, for example, you are applying a lot of functionality in front end. Let's say you are calculating some aggregations or metrics or some kind of calculations you are doing in the front end in MicroStrategy. So what happens? Once the data comes from the query engine to query engine, it sends to analytical engine. All these calculations are handled at analytical engine, the aggregation. Let's say you want to see sum of cost divided by 100 to make sure it's in the percentage value. Okay, all these calculations are handled at analytical engine, then it goes back to the report in the desktop, it shows in the report. All this flow, it's a report execution flow. Okay, so this is very, very important. People will ask you in interviews sometimes, and like, you know, it's good to know how exactly background what happens here. Any questions with this?
Do we write queries? Is it like everything is managed by MicroStrategy?
You don't need to write queries, but the prerequisite to learn any BI or data warehousing tools is like you need to be perfect in SQL, because you need to know how they are joining with n number of tables, n number of fact and dimension tables. Everything is handled by MicroStrategy itself. You just need to create reports by placing respective objects there, like attributes and metrics. It automatically generates it. But by placing, let's say you don't have a proper relation between two dimensions, but still you have placed there. The report may execute as a cross join, or it may take a lot of time because of no proper relation, or it may join with unnecessary stuff. So we need to make sure that is it execution right or not by understanding the SQL. Okay, we need to have a good expertise on the SQL, at least to understand it. You don't need to write anywhere.
Okay, but is there an ability to, you know, say like we have such a problem that, you know, we have not placed the dimensions properly, and there are like a lot of cross joins which is causing the performance. So in
Let
that
me
case,
tell you, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. So MicroStrategy, if you get a cross join, it's for no use. Like, you know, you don't even use any cross join reports in MicroStrategy. So we should make sure that that's what the role of architect. When he is designing a data model in front end in MicroStrategy, he need to make sure it matches with the back end, and whatever the granularity of data he is looking at and whatever the aggregations he's doing, he should make sure, like, you know, everything is a proper phase. If any mistake was done in the architecting and designing, God should save, because you will get some numbers. It may be a good numbers in development, and finally development is done by developer completely, and when it moves to production with the production data, it may be wrong, while testing it may be wrong, you know. So we need to make sure as an architect we design a proper data model for that, and we need to get it. Cross join reports are used only to throw in the dustbin. We never use cross join reports in MicroStrategy, and it won't recommend for that also. Okay, I'll show you the options also. There's some place it will tell you the cross join option, but in the brackets they'll mention it's not recommended.
But is there any possibility that if we are knowing that we are not doing it correctly, we can write the SQL queries and just we can validate whether the data is coming correct or not? It's like that.
You can. So let me tell you one thing. So that you do a validation, data validation against to the database. You write your own queries in the database and make sure the report execution is correct or not. That's one thing. Let's say there is a unique requirement where MicroStrategy report cannot execute a SQL automatically. Then what you do, you can write your own SQL in MicroStrategy reports also. At the same time, you have 10 tables where you need to interact with to create a report. You can write your own logical table. It's nothing but a view in your database. You can write it in MicroStrategy by joining those 10 tables, and you can use it as a physical table in reporting. Then you can create reports on top of it. All these options are there. I'll show you later.
Okay, and just I just want to do a recap of this. What you have written, this SQL engine. After SQL engine, it comes to query engine, right? And after that, it comes to analytical engine, and it goes in a reverse.
No. So let me tell you here. When you run a report in the desktop, it goes to intelligence server. First, it goes to SQL engine. It creates SQL parsers. Then it goes to query engine. All these parsers sent to database. It execute in the database, get the output from the database, and then if you don't have any aggregations in MicroStrategy, it sends back to report, it shows in the report. If you have any aggregations from query engine, it sends to analytical engine. From there, it goes to the report. This is the report actually, the front-end report. Okay. Now, whatever the task when you run it from the desktop, whatever happened, it will be the same part from the web also. Okay. So you have web server, from intelligence server it will be joined. Whatever the things, it will happen the same thing. Finally, the difference is, are you viewing a report in desktop or in the web? End user always look at the web. He will not have any software like what you're having in your machines right now. Okay. And finally, and you can ignore this this one actually, because as we have all the functionality in the developer, we don't use it. So this is the same thing. Like this intelligence server again connected to. Okay, this intelligence server is again connected to narrowcast server. Okay, for scheduling all those jobs and everything. So let me copy paste this for your reference in the chat box. Okay. Now, the final part. Who will be doing what kind of task? Okay. So I think I showed this to everyone, I guess, except Preeti. Configuration, objects. And this is handled by administrator. And I'm going to talk this, whatever things I'm mentioning, I'm going to teach all those stuff. Okay. First, installation of software, metadata, ODBC, connectivity, how to connect this. If you guys have any databases, you can also connect with that as well. Okay. Then creating project source. Okay. Then creating projects, duplicating a project. Then user management, as I just mentioned earlier, how to create groups, users, security roles. Okay. Next, once these things, like till here we'll see in the initial phase of our training, then we'll come back to these things, remaining stuff. Apart from this, as I mentioned, the core admin components like command manager, object manager, and other stuff. Okay. So these we'll come back to this once our developer, architect, everything is done. Okay. Architect. So architect will be handling schema objects. Okay. So what does it do? So once the project is created, project source is created, everything is ready for the project's initial start. So what architect will come into picture? He'll pull the tables, views, or whatever you say from the database into MicroStrategy environment. So everyone knows, right? Everyone knows about this. Data warehousing has got two tables. One is dimension, one is fact tables. So from the dimension tables, he'll create attributes. Attributes are nothing but dimensions. In data warehouse terminology, in BI you call it as attributes. And from fact tables, you create facts. Once this is done, so looking at the backend data model, so people will be given, the ETL team or someone will give you the data model, how the relation was given between the tables, right? Looking at that and also understanding your business requirement document, you're going to create hierarchies. To create hierarchies, you need to give the parent-child relationship between these attributes. Okay? Now, why do you create hierarchies? To drill the data from one level to another level. I want a report at quarter level, and suddenly I want to right click from quarter to month or year. I may go up or down. Okay? Using the hierarchies, I can do it. Okay? There are two types of hierarchies. We'll talk about it later. Then you have transformations. And these are also two types. So these transformations are like, you just to compare the time period of data. Let's say, for example, I want to compare current year sales with previous year. And I want to see what is the trend of last 5 years. How are my sales of my products in last 24 months? Okay. What is the 13 weeks back data I have? Like, what is the 13 weeks back what are the sales of my product? Okay, so these kind of things, you want to compare the time periods using transformations. Okay, now you have developer. So once these are created by architect, okay, once these are created by architect, the model is built, then developer comes into picture. Using these objects, he will create the public objects. Unless you build the schema objects, developer will not do anything there. So you have to, if you are architect come developer, you need to start with your designing project, then you need to build the project. Okay, so there are a lot of components here. There are very simple things. Consolidations. You have filters, and there are 4 or 5 types of filters. You have custom groups. Okay, you have prompts, and these are 7 types. You have metrics, as I think I already repeated it. For a developer, metrics is what the key part. That's what very important to understand. Okay, if this is wrong, the numbers are wrong. If numbers are wrong, the reports and dashboard is wrong. Next, you have drills and templates, and you have reports of different types, grid graph, and other data mart, lot of other things. Then you have intelligent cubes, which I just discussed before, like the initial, the beginning of the part. Okay, the intelligent cubes, and you have a report service document. These are documents. You have dynamic dashboards. Okay, so and you also have data mart report. This is one of the kind of report actually. Okay, before intelligent cubes, data mart report was the option for us to have these kind of data security and storing the data into it. Okay, so these are the components on different roles whatever we have, and it's time for you to ask questions. So go and ask questions if you have any. So these are the components what we deal in our training.
Oh, the schema objects cannot be created without the project, the data source, right?
Yes.
And the data source has to be done by administrator.
Just the connectivity, yeah.
Just the connectivity, okay.